as in a dark beginning of all things, a mute, featureless semblance of the unknown, repeating forever the unconscious act, prolonging forever the unseeing will, cradled the cosmic drowse of ignorant force, whose moved creative slumber kindles the suns and carries our lives in its somnambulist whirl. Athwart the vain, enormous trance of space, its formless stupor without mind or life, a shadow spinning through a soulless void, thrown back once more into unthinking dreams, earth wheeled abandoned in the hollow gulfs, forgetful of her spirit and her fate. Ah, yes. A dark beginning of all things. The light is not there, or it's not perceived as yet. Therefore, it is a dark beginning. And this mute, featureless semblance of the unknown, not quite visible yet, featureless, but it repeats forever this unconscious act, and it prolongs forever the will that cannot see, that is unsighted, and yet it cradles this cosmic drowse of some ignorant force who's so powerful that its moved creative slumber kindles the suns and carries our lives in its somnambulist whirl. Athwart is sort of going back and forth, from side to side, athwart the vain, enormous trance of space. And that space is a formless stupor, has no mind or life. It's a shadow spinning through a soulless void, thrown back once more into unthinking dreams. Ah, he's telling us about Earth here. Earth wheeled, abandoned in the hollow gulfs, forgetful of her spirit and her fate. Vladimir, forgetful of her spirit and her fate, at what point is Earth here?
Well, the whole passage is, as I understand it, is about this continuous kind of revisiting of our group soul, so to say, paralysis in between, yes, and withdrawing of our group soul into this away from manifestation and coming back. But something within this earth and within the matter tried many times. That's why it is all the time repeating forever the unconscious act, prolonging forever the unseeing will. So it is kind of holding to its own slumber. Yeah?
So do you feel that the 6 pralayas have passed already? And now Sri Aurobindo is telling us about this present.
Yes, that there will be no pralaya now, actually.
Exactly.
In the 7th Manvantara, yes, of Vaivasvata Manvantara. We are now in the 7th one, according to Indian tradition. Yes, correct.
Yes. But she's still forgetful of her spirit and her fate at this time, because we have to move on a little bit to see what happens. Anyone else? Nilisha, would you like to read a little? Read that passage once for us. Alicia's made great progress in reading. I must say, over the past months, uh, she's a different person now in her reading. She has caught something of Savitri.
After that introduction, please don't stumble.
Yeah, she can stumble. It's all right to stumble.
Right.
It's fine to stumble.
As in a dark beginning of all things, a mute, featureless semblance of the unknown, repeating forever the unconscious act, prolonging forever the unseeing will, cradled the cosmic drowse of ignorant force, whose moved creative slumber kindles the suns and carries our lives in its somnambulist whirl. Athwart the vain, enormous trance of space, its formless stupor without mind or life, a shadow spinning through a soulless void, thrown back once more into unthinking dreams, earth wheeled abandoned in the hollow gulfs, forgetful of her spirit and her fate.
Any further questions from our group on this passage?
There are several, actually.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, this whose moved creative slumber. Shouldn't uses moved as a participle, as an adjective in a way here.
Yes, it's an adjective.
Mm.
What
What does it really mean? Whose moved creative slumber? It's kind of contradictory to the mind. Creative slumber, moved. Yeah? When the slumber becomes moving or something. Yeah?
It's very true that it seems to be a contradiction in the phrase, but it is a slumber that's not actually a deep sleep.
Mm.
It's a creative slumber, and it is moved, and it is so powerful that it can kindle the suns and carries our lives. But it's this force also that carries our lives.
Yeah.
This force with its creative slumber that carries our lives. And now he uses the word somnambulist in its somnambulist whirl. We've talked about the wheel and the wheel in a wheel, the old Negro hymn. The large wheel run by the grace of God and the little wheel run by fate. So it carries us in a somnambulist is almost not just sleepwalking, but I would say almost half asleep. But it's a whirl. It is a whirl. It is this wheel that continues around through all the pralayas. And it's carrying us in that. This trance of space, enormous trance of space. And yet it's a vain trance. Why? Because it's a formless stupor. It's only a shadow spinning through a soulless void. And it's thrown back once more into unthinking dreams. These dreams that occur without the process of thought. And their earth wheels abandoned in the hollow gulfs. How do you feel about that, people? That earth is abandoned. Why is she abandoned? because
Maybe she just, maybe it's just that she feels abandoned, right? That she's not really, but she's not conscious of the support that's being received behind her, if you will.
well, the next line gives us the answer. She's forgetful of her spirit and her fate. So she seems to be abandoned, wheeling in the hollow gulfs, forgetful of her spirit and her fate.
It seems, Vladimir, too, that perhaps that forgetfulness goes back to somnambulist, right? When you're sleepwalking, you really don't know, you don't remember, right? When you wake up, you have no remembrance of sleepwalking, of what you were doing or eating or where you were going. So there is this kind of forgetfulness that's alluded to in the somnambulist, or the kind of the even waking mind, if you will.
If we go through the passage and we see some of these extraordinary lines, we have unseeing, we have a cosmic drowse, we have a creative slumber, we have a somnambulous world, we have a trance, we have a stupor.
Ignorant force,
Ignorant force, yes, all of these things.
Yeah, it seems that even after everything is kind of awakened into the consciousness, it is still there, continuing its own inertia. It still carries on this kind of somnambulist consciousness behind. We are still half conscious. We are not totally conscious. Even now, when we didn't leave this earth, we are still here, and it has the bigger portion of itself in this dark matter.
Yeah, you are very generous in saying half conscious. I think maybe
Much less.
10% would be better for me, but 90% still has to be worked on.
But when we withdrew as a group soul in this pralaya, when there is no interaction with this inconscient, as it were, with this vacant not, with this, space, then of course it is nearly 100%. But again, nearly 100%.
Yes.
There is some trace, something there in the memory of the darkness that it tried already to awake to light.
Yes. And he does speak to us next. And I'll continue a little bit. Can you raise that up for me? Or I can use the book.
Sure. I did.
Because then he tells us the impassive skies were neutral, empty, still. Then something in the inscrutable darkness stirred, a nameless movement, an unthought idea, insistent, dissatisfied, without a name, something that wished, but knew not how to be, teased the inconscient to wake ignorance. So we see, even though the skies are empty, neutral, and still, something stirs in this inscrutable darkness. And what is it? It's a movement without a name, an idea that's not even thought about. Yet it's insistent, it's dissatisfied. It doesn't have an aim. It's something that wants to be but doesn't know how to be, that teases the inconscient to wake ignorance. Now, it's very important here to understand Sri Aurobindo's definition of inconscient. Could you help us a little here on that, Vladimir?
Well, it's a difficult term, and even English people, they don't understand what inconscient could mean. Yes,
Exactly.
it's not really unconscious. Yeah?
No.
And that's the point. Yes, it is
Yes.
inconscient. That means the consciousness is within, but it is so deep, it is so buried within that that we can call it inconscient. Consciousness is not manifested in a way. It is kind of gobbled up and swallowed up by the darkness. And then it has to wake up to ignorance, to reveal at least something to the darkness, some light. You know, this, what Sri Aurobindo calls in the Veda, starry light, starry night. So the night becomes full of stars. So these stars are actually showing us some glimpses of light in the darkness. So it's not total darkness. It's not the greater night.
Yes. I could quote a little of something Mother has written.
Mm.
At the very bottom of the inconscient, most hard and narrow and rigid, I don't remember the next name, I struck upon an almighty spring. Oh, and stifling, rigid and stifling.
Mm-hmm.
I struck upon an almighty spring that cast me up forthwith into a luminous vast, vibrating with the seeds of a new world. In that inconscient, she finds the spring that will cast us into the new world.
Oh.
And so ignorance has to be awakened.
This is what happened to Sri Aurobindo. It's actually the whole secret of the Veda is based on this. That's what he says also when I was digging into that Maya, into that infinite rock. He met the infinite rock at the bottom of things. Yeah?
Yes.
And that is that Adri in the Veda, yeah? That infinite stone. And he was digging into it more and more until he came to this spring of light. The light was discovered within the deepest darkness. So at the bottom of the inconscient, in the very center of it, this supreme light, supreme, is buried. And this is the secret of the Veda, why they were kind of looking for this and breaking of the Vala, of the cave of darkness, this cave of wonders in many fairy tales and stories. Aladdin, the cave of wonders, yes. So this, to come into that cave and to discover the hidden treasures and to release them, these herds of the sun or the herds of the dawn. The rishis discovered in the hidden darkness, in the cave of darkness, and the new sun, new heaven, and a new dawn. Yes. It's very Vedic, by the way.
Very Vedic, yes.
Savitri is kind of incorporating that knowledge. Yeah, and even terminology what Sri Aurobindo coined, like inconscient, is also implying exactly this secret of the Veda.
I have in my lexicon inconscient. Almost 2 pages. He defines the inconscient and the ignorance may be mere empty abstractions and can be dismissed as irrelevant jargon if one has not come in collision with them or plunged into their stark and bottomless reality. But to me, They are realities, concrete powers whose resistance is present everywhere and at all times in the tremendous and boundless mass. This is from the letters on Savitri.
Mm.
And then he speaks of it in the letters on yoga and in the Life Divine and in essays in philosophy and yoga. So he really speaks to us about the inconscient as he has experienced it and Mother has experienced it.
Mm, mm, mm. So basically, in this vision of the Veda, above us we have the light, the infinite, yes, the light, and below us we also have infinite light. And in between we have all these gradations of darkness, as it were. The night, the deeper night, the starry night, the ignorance is the starry night, yes?
Yes.
And the deeper night is the inconscient, where the light is not visible, where, as Sri Aurobindo says, the soul can be lost forever, you know. There is such a dense, deep night that the soul can be lost and not found. You can imagine what kind of night it is. Very scary for us to be. But he speaks about this inconscient as also as the infinite realm. Yeah, it has
yes.
its own infinity.
Yes.
It's not finite. So the inconscient ocean.
And what I read last week when Mother says, he casts into night the creatures of the light, and the night is filled with stars.
So beautiful. This is totally Vedic imagery, by the way. It's as if they quote from the Veda, you know. Because the night is called, as we mentioned, maybe last time we spoke about it, that as the Praveshani. She is the one who introduces the souls into this manifestation. She is bringing them into this realm,
Yes.
and they shine here as stars. And Rishi invokes the night as one of the goddesses. Yeah? Havayami ratrim jagato niveshanim. So he, together with fire, with Mitra and Varuna, divine consciousness and being, and with Savitar, with the Lord of the supermind, he invokes night together with them. Because she is also functional here. She will be doing her work. She is one of the mothers of Agni. She feeds him. Our soul is growing through night and within night, in her lap, so to say. It's very non-dualistic. Once you know that below in the darkness there is light, that becomes really non-dualistic vision. Everything is accepted. There's nothing to reject. Beautiful, yeah. So shall we read the passage, Narad? Oh, he's frozen, most probably. Narad, are you there?
Back again.
Okay.
Our sense, by its incapacity, has invented darkness. In truth, there is only light. But it is a light that is either above or below our poor human vision's limited range. Or do not think that light comes from the suns. And then I forget the rest of the passage, but he ends it with, God is everywhere. And where God is, there is light.
Narad,
Yeah.
what is the source of the lines you just read?
It's Sri Aurobindo, but I don't know what book it's from. I don't recall right now. I can find it easily for you. The phrase begins, our sense by its incapacity has invented darkness. In our Oro search on our website, one can find these things easily. Our website is motherandSriAurobindo.in. We can go a few more lines, Vladimir, and another 15 minutes we can break.
Okay. Okay, so shall we start with this, the impassive skies, yes?
Yes.
Shall I read or you read, Narad?
You read this time.
The impassive skies were neutral, empty, still. Then something in the inscrutable darkness stirred. A nameless movement, an unthought idea, insistent, dissatisfied, without a name, something that wished but knew not how to be, teased the inconscient to wake ignorance. This we read.
This we read, yes.
Sorry.
I want to start with a throw.
A throw that came and left a quivering trace, gave room for an old tired want unfilled, at peace in its subconscient moonless cave, at peace in its subconscient moonless cave, to raise its head and look for absent light, straining closed eyes of vanished memory, like one who searches for a bygone self and only meets the corpse of his desire.
7-line sentence. So powerful. We should take it very slowly. We could finish with that today, I think, because there's so much here. A throw. You know, that's an interesting word, a throw. A feeling going out that comes and then leaves a quivering trace, which gives room for an old, tired want that's unfilled. And what is that old, tired want? It's at peace in its subconscient moonless cave, and we have to speak a lot about subconscient. But it raises its head, and it looks for a light that seems absent. It strains closed eyes of vanished memory, like a person who searches for a bygone self and can only meet the corpse of his desire. What is the old tired want? Anyone?
Yeah, that very thing, yes, that very attempt to become conscious, in the inconscient, that very attempt of somnambulist consciousness to wake.
Exactly, exactly. It's this aspiration, actually,
Mhm.
for something higher, truer, more perfect. But it's still in its subconscious cave, which is even moonless, but it's at peace. And yet it raises its head looking for light. And it's straining closed eyes of vanished memory. And then it's so beautifully eloquent, like one who searches for a bygone self and only meets the corpse of his desire. How often have we looked to the past and only meet the corpse of our desires?
Mm.
I'll quote to you something from Mother. At every moment, we must shake off the past like fading dust, that it may not soil the virgin path, which at every moment also is opening before us. This is from Mother's prayers and meditations. The past can be of use for us because it has helped to propel us into the future we are now beginning to experience. But we have to shake off all the negativity and all the desires and all the memories of a bygone self, because we always have to look towards the light and the future, beauty, truth, and love.
You know, I just wanted to go back to that word Narad, throw.
Yeah.
So it's just looking it up in the dictionary, and it's a lot stronger meaning than what I had originally envisioned. It says intense or violent pain and struggle, especially accompanying birth, death, or great change. Right. So that throw, which I take to be that aspiration and that aim, it was an intense, but it left. It looks it's as if it suddenly came and indicated some sort of death of the past or birth or change that's about to happen. And then it left, but it left leaving this trace, this quivering to me is almost kind of this nervous or apprehending trace, if you will. So I wonder if you or Vladimir might be able to say just a little bit more as to how you interpret
Well, I
that
do
line.
interpret it in that way. I have it in the lexicon as a severe pang or spasm, as in the pain of childbirth. Yes. We could say it's a spasm, we could say it's a pain, but I think it's clear that it's some kind of angst, anguish almost, that comes and leaves a quivering trace. But that gives the room for the old tired want to raise its head and look for absent light. So it's that spasm, that pain, that induces the old tired want that's not filled and at peace to finally raise its head and look for absent light.
It is as if applicable to all of us in general, so to say, without without pain, as pain is a chisel of the gods, as Sri Aurobindo says. Yes,
Yes, in Savitri,
right.
the hammer of the gods.
The hammer of the gods, yes.
Yes.
With which they chisel, so to say, as he says somewhere, the new being. So we need this pain to wake up and to look for light. Otherwise, we will fall into this somnambulist world and will feel at peace in the moonless cave. We need some push. Something has to
Yes.
make us wake up.
And that is the true sense of an aspiration. That want, that's not desire, but it's an intense aspiration to look for light, for absent light in this case here, but later on we'll see much more happens.
By the way, here with the desire, Sri Aurobindo uses the word desire also in the positive sense, like divine desire, or some kind of a want or search or
Good point. Very good point. It is not pejorative at all.
Yes, in his lexicon, in his usage, yes. But he here these two lines, like one who searches for a bygone self and only needs the corpse of his desire, reminds me of all his explanation why desire is not really reaching to the result it wanted, why the desire always follows with dissatisfaction and unhappiness of some kind. Why we never, through desire, we cannot reach to the goal. And because the desire, when we desired, we wanted more than what we achieved. We always achieve the satisfaction of some kind of the desire. And that satisfaction seems to be misleading in a way, because our desire, deeper desire, was to look for the truth. For example, somebody all his life he earns money, and once he earned all the money that is there to earn, he feels that he really didn't achieve his aim. He thought that by doing that he will arrive at something which is, delight and truth, and it is not there. So, and he explains why: because we expect the truth from this movement. So within the desire, whatever wrong desire, there is a deeper kind of flame searching for the truth. Yeah? And only on the surface of this desire, we get all those elements which we call the desire. So it's kind of interesting to look into it from this perspective, why desire is never satisfactory, is never leading us to the goal, because we seek the highest, the supreme goal in every desire. And somewhere Mother beautifully describes this absolutism of desire. She speaks that when you see these people searching in absolute form to realize their desire, it tells us about the divine, that the divine is, because they're looking for the supreme realization, for the truth. It's quite interesting. So we can deconstruct this idea of desire in Sri Aurobindo's vision.
Basically we, if we achieve something in our aspiration, we often settle there and feel that it's the end. We've reached the top. And we haven't even begun.
Only a corpse, only the corpse of our desire.
Yes.
Only the corpses are here left. Right.
But there is more to come. And so much more. Where are we in time? Does everyone want to?
We can stop here today.
Here, I think it's a good time to conclude.
Right.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much, Narad.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Namaste.
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 Is it Kate at the bottom?
Kate, are you there? Yeah, you're here.
Wonderful, Kate. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, bye.
Namaste all.